This is Rory speaking. I want to use this video to demonstrate some of the different systems that I've used for ambience in my version of Hammer. First of all, we hear here some birds in the trees. If you were to destroy these trees, the birds would fly away. And this is true of most objects that you see lying around in Hammer. So there are electric buzzes and hums associated with the lights, fluorescent lights, including the stadium lights up there. If you see gas tanks, you'll hear the sound of gas escaping. Little details like that. There are parking meters as well, all sorts of things. If we walk into the middle of the stadium, we can hear that we're surrounded by a crowd. Each stadium bleacher has its own emitter. They are playing the same event, but care is taken to make sure that they're not overlapping. So the stadium crowd uses an event sound. This is so that I can get the whole loop that consists of a few files inside there to have a start offset with random modulation, so that the different bleachers at north, south, east, west of you never play in synchronicity or at the same time or get phasey or anything. If we go inside the crowd's loop, we see here what's going on. So we have a general kind of outdoor large crowd loop, and then we have sporadic cheering, so that it appears to come and go when you hear the two together. I think the best part about the sound coming from this bleachers is the way that I've used the event cone orientation feature in FMOD, so that when you run underneath it, the sound gets filtered out. But also, if you run around the edge, we get a nice slow increase of high frequency material. So we'll see here the event cone angle. And there is the automation that I use to achieve this. At 180 degrees, you get a much greater filter than you do at 0 degrees. And it's the careful balance of this curve that makes walking around the edge of the stadium sound realistic. So regarding the main ambience, there is one large emitter that covers the whole center of Hammer City. And then there are emitters around the edge of the city corresponding to points on the compass. If we go into the folder called Rory's and into Ambiences, we'll see here the central one and then the accompanying ones around the edge. And these are designed to overlap so that you're always hearing more than one emitter at any one time. These are set up to be localized so that if you turn your head, the sound of the city should turn with you. And I've also set these up so that if you face inwards, the emitter behind you is duller or sounds more distant than if you point outwards. So the siren that we're hearing at the moment should work as a good example. There we are facing it. But if we turn away, it goes into the distance. So the emitters around the edge of the map are all distinct. Out in the north here, where it's a bit greener and we've got the stadium, there's a bit more bird chatter. Where there's more skyscrapers, there may be more sort of urban noise and traffic. But overall, I was trying to satisfy a sense of an empty city aesthetic, since this city is not very much populated. Finally, I want to demonstrate the wind system that I've created in Hammer. First of all, let's solo it so we can hear what's going on. And let's go and have a look at how this is implemented. If we go into the hierarchy and look for the folder called Rory's, inside Ambience we'll find the wind emitter there. So this is the system. It governs the whole map and all levels, and it is based therefore entirely on height or elevation of hammer. So the higher he gets, the more windy the sound will get. So wind height 1 is the bottom zone here, and it covers just the time that hammer is on the ground floor. And the second height here will cover sort of 2 or 3 stories upwards, and there where the third height covers the tops of most of the buildings that we play in the middle of the level. Above that we have a fourth wind height which covers basically all of the sky should you be flying around or exploring the tops of any skyscrapers. These different height zones simply trigger parameter changes in my wind event for a height parameter that we have there. So if we go to FMOD and have a look, we'll see here that as the height increases, in comes this heavier wind loop, and that using automation, the levels will increase. There's also a filter on this wind event here so that it opens up, and when we get all the way up to the top heights, we should have a much more ferocious wind sound than we do lower down. Let's go and have a listen and see how this sounds in the game. So I've muted everything else and I've gone and bought a jetpack to demonstrate this more easily. Here we are on the ground listening to the basic event. I'm just going to turn it up a little bit as well. There we go. Here we are on the ground hearing the basic wind. If I go up onto just the second story, we should notice a very small increase of loudness and the beginning of that wispier wind sound. If we continue going up, at this height we're certainly starting to get that wispy sound more clearly. The total wind is definitely more noticeable. Here we are at the same height as the car park, and we're starting to get a very full sense of wind. And if I continue upwards to this skyscraper, safe to say we're now in wind zone 4, so at the total height of the system. If I was to drop all the way down, you'll hear how it reverts back to the ground level wind, but does so slowly using the seek speed parameter in FMOD. And there we are. That's the adaptive wind system in my version of Hammer.